What's up, people? Welcome, welcome. I give a few of you time to jump in. All right, let's see here. Let's refresh here. There it is. Let's mute that. I want to be able to see you guys' chats. All right, here we go. Y'all know what to do as you come in, sound off. Let me know who's watching, where you're from. What's up, Thomas and McGill? I just wanted to thank you for your contribution to the community. Really appreciate it worldwide, man. Thank you, sir, so much. I appreciate that, HK. Appreciate y'all tuning in today, man. Y'all know how it goes with me. I'm normally kind of trying to wake my hands up first thing in the morning. I've been playing a little while before I got on here. Thank you, McGill. I've been playing a little while before I got on, but not long. So I'm just kind of feeling my way around the bass. I put up a post on last week, and I was just kind of warming up, playing around to some different stuff. And people have been asking me what type of stuff do I practice on. And now it's kind of gotten more so to where I'm not spending as much time on stuff like scales and that type of thing, but more so, bless you too, man. Who is that? I see John and somebody else just commented. I missed your comment, but thank you for that. From France, I see you, man. But yeah, I'm not spending as much time like working on scales and that kind of thing. Hot, hot last. Oh yeah. Uh, so I'm missing some kind of way. I'm missing some of the comments here. Hopefully they'll pop up. Let me see if I can raise the screen up a little bit. Okay. All right. So yeah, I'm not spending as much time on scales and that kind of thing. I'm more so after a while of playing. It's not saying it's not important that you practice scales and that kind of thing, but sometimes kind of going over what you know instead of spending so much time on always trying to learn something new, perfecting the things you know can sometimes be more inspiring when it comes to practice, because we all know when you start practicing stuff and you start learning a bunch of new stuff, it's exciting once you figure it out, but the whole process of learning it sometimes can be, frustrating, and it can discourage you from practicing because you get overwhelmed with trying to learn all this new stuff. But sometimes when you take the information that you know and start trying to find other type of ways to apply that information, it can kind of push you forward. Leah, I see you. Trying to outlast. All right, so good morning from New Jersey. I see you, New Jersey. God bless you. Jerry, who is this? DJ, thank you for sharing the love, brother. I guess I'm gonna have to look at it on this screen over here because it's not showing me. Finally tuned in this morning. Malcolm, what's up, man? Joel, I guess I got another window open over here, and the messages are popping up late on that, so I'm missing some of you guys' messages. So, but yeah, I'm just what you hear me doing this morning. I'm just playing around with some ideas, kind of warming the fingers up and opening my mind up, because again, you could play this instrument so much, or whatever instrument you play, if you're not just a bass player. You can play so much stuff and constantly trying to learn that you almost lose inspiration. You only get inspired when you hear other people do stuff. And the thing about it is you should be inspiring your own self. It's great to be inspired by others, but you should be a form of your own inspiration as well. Absolutely, man. I appreciate that. So let's see what we got here. I don't even know if I'm tuned, so give me a second. Obviously, my 6 string is tuned down. Normally, I tune standard on my 5 because that's what I do the lessons with. But my 6 string is tuned flat for the sake of how I normally play. I normally play flat. I only tune down just to teach. I tune standard just to teach. Let's see if we can get anything out of this morning. There we go. And as you can hear, these basses have two completely different tones. I've been asked oftentimes as well, why do I play 6 string bass or higher strings and that kind of thing? And me personally, just for the sake, this is not on the subject of what we're talking about today, but for me personally, the 6 strings I prefer because the way I play, I feel like I'm able to be more expressive completely on a 6 string than I am 5. Now, I can be as expressive on either 5 or 4, but I feel like I'm more open and I can get out more ideas more fluently when I'm playing the 6 string bass. So that's me personally. That's why I chose. I choose to play 6 string when it comes to like more of my solo playing, when I write songs, when I'm doing more of my album stuff. A good majority of the time, the stuff you hear me playing on some of the solo records, I'm playing a 6 string bass because it's just feels like, for me personally, it's a little easier to communicate when I'm playing the 6 string bass. So I see somebody join in from Zimbabwe. What's up, man? Whoever we got joining in, watching us from Zimbabwe. Appreciate you guys tuning in all around the world. Who all we have on here? I know we got France, we got the Netherlands, we got Zimbabwe, we had South Africa, I see. And who else we got? I know we got Mississippi. I got my brother, my blood brother on here this morning. So, Indiana, yes sir. Let's see if we can get another groove going here before I jump into talking. So the Australia, I see you. All around the world, y'all, I appreciate y'all joining in, man. This is really cool. I really enjoy seeing everybody. I forgot New Jersey as well, I see. But I think this is so awesome that social media gives us the opportunity to connect simultaneously around the world, man. I don't take that lightly. That's just something really cool and unheard of when we were young. But I think it's really cool. And I really appreciate you guys joining in with me this morning. So the topic is don't quit now. You're too invested. For some reason, it seemed like that time of year where not everybody, but a lot of people start considering giving up, especially when it comes to music. If you're doing it as a career, or even if you're not doing it as a career, you picked it up and it's like, man, this junk is too hard. This time of year seems like that time of year when most people get depressed and they start trying to quit and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to jump on here this morning and just kind of do a little quick talk about that, grooves and motivation. So let me see, play a little bit more. Let's see. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3. Yep, that helps too. Sometimes switching if you play other instruments Thanks for the invite. Indeed, something special, man, being a part of this while being on the other side of the world. Man, yeah. Thomas, I appreciate you. Let us see what you're playing, sir. I was getting set up, man. I was going to turn around. Cape Town, man. What's up? Thailand, I see you. Thank you, Andre. Oh, man. Yeah, Sheldon, yeah, it'll be available later on, man. New Zealand, I see you. Indonesia, I see you. Oh, y'all everywhere tuning in this morning. What's up, Ghana? Jamaica? Thank you, sir. One thing I wanted to point out while I'm playing this is a lot of times in improvisation, people think there's a certain way you have to do it. One thing about the stuff that I'm playing, you hear me kind of repeating a lot of ideas when I'm messing up, like getting the idea together. It's your opinion. It's just like you having a conversation with someone. They can't tell you how you want to say what it is you want to say. They can suggest ideas, but improvisation is just like you speaking. It's just like you getting out what you're feeling in the conversation. So if you happen to have to take a solo or happen to be in a situation where you have to share or improv, don't be afraid to take risk and jump out there. And if you mess up, keep going. It's like the whole title of the talk today. Don't quit. Don't quit in the middle of playing. I used to get so intimidated, if I could be transparent for a second. I used to get so intimidated outside of my walls of, the safety of my own house or something like that, or where I'm used to playing. When I go to somewhere else and they'll call on me and I wouldn't expect in a solo, a lot of times I would freeze up because all this anxiety and all these thoughts, what do I play? What if I mess up? All these what ifs would come in my mind. And I find myself like messing up because of that, instead of just trusting my ideas and going with them, even if I make a mistake. Because in conversations, when you're talking to somebody, you're having an actual conversation with somebody, it's like you don't just quit after you can't get your idea out. You don't say, man, forget it, and just get in your car and go home. You don't do that. At least most of us don't. Some of y'all might do that. And if you do that, you probably need to work on that. But the idea when you're playing, it should be the same thing as when you're speaking. If you have something that you're trying to get out, make your point. I mean, keep trying until you actually make your point. You get out what you want to say. We'll need a breakdown, brother. I don't know how much of that I can break down. It's just kind of random coming off my mind. But I just want that while I'm playing, I notice sometimes we can listen to other people play and we listen to the ideas and we think, okay, I have to learn all of that. No, it's communication. It's learning to speak the way you speak with what you have. If you only know the major scale, take that major scale. If you don't even know what your scale is called, I talked about on the last lesson that I put out, and I hope you guys go back and watch that lesson. I put it out this past weekend talking about solfege, using, that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Just say if we was in this key, this is basically the major scale. If that's all you know, figure out how to maximize that. Instead of keep trying to add more and more and more and more. Nothing wrong with adding more, but a lot of times we rush to try to add stuff, and then we get frustrated because we don't know how it all fits together. The better thing is take little by little. What's the saying? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So you take the little bit that you know. If all you know is a major scale, and somebody give you a groove like that, start taking that major scale instead of getting frustrated and quitting because you can't come up with any ideas. Take the little bit that you know and start applying that little bit. So if I took the major scale, which in this particular groove, believe it or not, that's most of what I'm playing is variations of the major scale. So check it out again. I was playing major scale and major pentatonic. So I'll play it again. Now I'm in the key of A flat. Well, I'm playing in the key of A flat major. It's built off a minor. Like 6, 3, 4, So A flat major. You see what I'm saying? It's all about how you put it together. Major pentatonic. All of that sounded like something different, but all I was doing is taking variations of the major scale. Just taking a major scale and messing around with it. You can even start to take intervals. Start taking those intervals and you take Andre. I'm just saying, man, you'll be surprised the stuff that you skip over trying to get to the complicated stuff, because I know what happens, because I'm just like you guys. Even though I play and you're on here watching these videos, I'm just like you all. we can sometimes hear other people, and you hear everything that they're doing, and they're playing 300 miles per hour, and we think, okay, I need to be trying to get to that. No, that's their language. They've worked and they've put in the time to be able to communicate in that way that they're communicating. You don't know how many hours they have in what they're playing. So they're playing 300 miles per hour, but you don't know that they were taking that at 30 BPM, and they were literally doing this for 6 hours a day. Doing this for 6 hours a day. You know what I'm saying? That seems very, very boring, but a lot of the people that you hear that do so much stuff, and it's so like, out there. Morning, Nathaniel, man, I see you. You know what I'm saying? The people that do stuff that seems so out there, they're taking different ideas that they've been working on. A lot of these people have been working on these ideas for years, and they put hours and hours and hours and hours in. But I know there are, on the flip side of that, there are a lot of people who put a lot of hours in learning the stuff, and they learn all the scales, and they learn the major, the minor, pentatonic. But at the same time, you have no idea where to put any of this stuff. In my mind, that's like having a tool shed full of tools, but yeah, you don't know how to work on anything. I'm saying you got the coolest toolbox in the world, the big tall job that stands up like this tall, and it got all the rolls and all the nice tools. You have all the ratchets, you have all the other stuff that I can't name, but you don't know how to work on anything. So you have all the tools there. You've purchased the stuff, you put in the time, you've invested into your craft and everything. You got the right instrument, you got the right tools, you know the scales, but when somebody tells you to take a solo, you have no idea what to play. It's like having a whole bunch of tools and you don't know how to use any of them. So the biggest thing about it is taking the little bit, starting with learning how to use a screwdriver. Okay, this is a Phillips head screwdriver, and so if I find this Phillips head screw, let me screw that one screw in. Let me figure out how to do that. Or even if I have a drill that's a Phillips head, let me take this drill and figure out how to drill this screw in without, tearing the threads up out of it, or tearing the top out, or balling that out. Let me do that. Let me figure out how to do that well. Let me take, if I have a ratchet or something like that, let me put it on a screw on a bolt, and let me tighten that down without stripping it out. Let me figure out how to do that really well before I move on to the next thing. Because if I don't, I'll have a whole bunch of tools and I'll start tearing up everything. Every time I work on something, I grab a tool and I work on this, and it's supposed to have been metric, but I use something else. And I took a 15 where it should have been a 14. And so now I stripped that out, and I went on to something else and I stripped that out, and I just start tearing up stuff. Now I got a whole bunch of stuff that needs fixing. Instead of taking my time and figuring out, okay, how does this work? Is this the right tool for this situation? Is this the right scale for the scenario? Is this the right sound for what I'm going for? Because I could play a perfect example right here. The same progression we're playing. So we're playing 6, 3, 4. You know what I'm saying? We're playing that progression. So what works over that? So what if I just started ripping? So I'm gonna play this, and you tell me if you think it works. Some of you might be like, yeah, man, that sounds good. I guess that's up to the listener at that point. But in my opinion, that is not work, not the entire time. Some of that you can get away with, depending on how, exactly, DJ. It works bad. It doesn't work that good. You can get away with some of that, but it's about moderation. It's about moderation and being able to understand when you're listening to this stuff, like what really goes. Does this minor run? Does that work in it? Yeah, but a bit much. Exactly, Thomas. It's like, okay, I hear you. You're playing a lot of fat, and I'm not trying to be funny, but I hear some bass players and musicians do that kind of stuff. They have the chops and they playing a lot of fast stuff, but musically it's not working. It's like we're talking about apples and oranges, and you come over here giving me a paragraph and a thesis about bananas. We're not talking about bananas right now. Nah, Thomas, is not so much, man. I'm just showing you guys, man. It's sometimes understanding context and taking the small things and being able to put the small things in context helps you to become a better player instead of trying to rush into something that doesn't make any sense. You get frustrated, exactly, talking too much, and Andre, you get frustrated when you do that. But and that's the type of stuff that makes you want to quit because you have a lot of information you're trying to get out and you're almost about to explode because of some of this information. But the thing is, like, finding little small outlets, like even in a groove. If I'm not taking a solo, finding a small outlet in the song where I can get out. Like, you know, if I'm just playing the bass line of that groove. You know, just taking that. Something that simple, like a major pentatonic. I know where that goes. I know where the placement of that goes because I spent time working on, okay, where all can I put this type of thing? Trinidad, I see you. William, I missed your comment. Let's see here. I don't know why this thing won't scroll up any further. Let's see if it'll show me. See if it'll show me the whole thing. All right. There we go. There we go. Now I see it. Good morning. Man, I've been trying to work on soloing, although I play in a church environment and I don't solo at all, but just want to know how I'm an intermediate player trying to figure it out. Yes. So William, so that's kind of what I'm talking about right now, man. That's the difference from a pro musician and a regular musician, knowing when to apply it, Trinidad. But we all have drip. We all got access to those tools, man. It's just putting in that time and being a listener. Now, to be honest, Drip, what really separates the pros from regular musicians is listening. Because pros ain't always the most fluent in terms of chops, all of the runs and all of, you know, that your pros most of the time aren't doing all of that. Your solo players maybe, but a lot of your pros, they have a few chops, but they got their go-tos that they use. And these are the things when it comes to pros that separate the pros. Their ears, listening and knowing when to apply certain things. Not necessarily having the chops, not necessarily knowing how to solo. Solo is just you being, you know, it's just like my brother and I, if he's still on here, we were talking about a few days ago. It's like B.B. King versus a George Benson. Doesn't mean either one of them are not pros. It's just preference of what we choose to say in a sentence. B.B. King might take something, you know, where George Benson might take, you know, he might take something, I know it's a bad example, but he might take something a lot faster and say the same thing that B.B. King just said in 3 notes. And so when you know how to do that, how to communicate what it is you're trying to say, that's what separates the pros from the people who are trying, you know, to be pros. Because there are a lot of people who have chops, but they have no sense of placement. And to me, I don't really consider them pros, because if I call you for a gig and we're just playing, if that's your job to do that and you can't do that much, then you're probably not a pro. Because if you all you want to give me on a groove like that, I don't need all of that. So the pro understands where to put the stuff, how much to do, how much not to do. It's like knowing what not to do is the thing sometimes that will make you. Information doesn't make you the pro. knowing how to actually use the information, knowing how to accurately apply. Going back to the scenario with the toolbox, you can have all the tools in the world, but if you don't know how to accurately apply those tools and how to put these things to use for you, it kind of kills the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? So I see Malcolm said, using the same analogy, you should be able to sense where a conversation is going. And it's just absolutely, man. Absolutely. I agree. Uh, I agree, Malcolm. You should definitely be able to sense where the conversation is going and be able to adjust. See it. What's up, man? So yeah, you should be able to adjust. I'm not gonna say that, DJ. And you have to be careful when you kind of put people in a box. You know what I'm saying? You have to be careful. I see we have a little latency happening here. I don't know what that's about, but you have to be careful when we put people in a box, because just because a person does one thing, that doesn't mean they don't know how to do anything else. And we have to be careful when we put people in a box. And even with the social media world, we have to be careful when we judge according to what we hear people do on social media, because a lot of people don't show their hand. You know, they're good card players, you know, they're good spades or poker players, and they have a poker face. They give you just enough to let you know, hey, I can play. But they don't show you that, hey, I can play funk, I can play rock, I can play pop, I can play gospel, I can play all these different things. You may hear them in one sense and you think, okay, that's all they can do. No, that's all they're showing you. Maurice, what's up, man? Good to have you this morning. So you can't always make that assumption when you hear or when a person says, I'm a classical player, because we don't know their background. Because believe it or not, I think, who is it? Sheree Reed was a player that was classically trained when he started off. And another thing I want to say with that is, just because how you hear a person today, that doesn't mean they're gonna always stay that way. I really enjoyed your bass on what was this? Enjoyed you on bass, sir, AJ Tate. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. So just because you hear somebody in one context, that doesn't mean that's how they're always going to be. People have the opportunity to grow just like you. So you may have this person summed up in your mind, that's all they can do. And the next time you hear them, you plug up with them and it's like you're embarrassed. So you have to really, really be careful with that. Like I was mentioning, Sheree Reed, the little bit that I do know about Sheree, I don't personally know Sheree Reed, but one of the things I remember hearing about him is that he was more so classically trained, and you know, more so in the jazz world and that kind of stuff. When he started playing, he didn't necessarily grow up playing in the church right away, and he learned that stuff later. But Sheree is one of the most, you know, well-rounded bass players all of us have heard in our time now, as one of the, you know, funky, soulful, you know, chops. We can go anywhere with, you know, with the stuff that he does, but he came up with a more classical background. So that's not the end all. That's just at the time that may be what a person is exposed to. But give this person another environment and the same work ethic, they're going to get it. So it's all about your work ethic. It's all about you using your ears to become, you know, to become better. My big brother is a bass player and has inspired me to play bass. Tell me about you. Wow, man, that's good, DZ. So yeah, I just wanted to just kind of get on here and share some of that stuff. So like, again, a lot of you saw the title, Don't Quit Now, You're Too Invested. So stop trying to give up. Take baby steps. Take babies. I don't care how far you are in the game. I don't care if you consider yourself a pro, intermediate, or beginner. Sometimes you got to back up, take baby steps, and start playing to actually enjoy. And if it's not playing, if you're on here for some random reason, you're not even into music, the thing that you do that you love to do, sometimes you have to back up and put it down for a second. Take a breather, get yourself together, and then come back to it. Then take baby steps getting back into it, and make sure you're doing it because you're actually enjoying it, instead of putting so much pressure on yourself, constantly comparing yourself to other people, feeling like you haven't succeeded at it yet, or, man, I should be here, I should be there. No, man, you have to just take it little by little. Take it little by little, and don't get in a rush. Just take baby steps. The little bit, going back to the scales. You know, just taking baby steps, taking a small thing that you know and figuring out how to use that. to the most, how to maximize better, for lack of better words, how to maximize that instead of trying to jump into the complicated stuff that frustrates you and make you want to quit. When you hear everybody else, don't worry about what everybody else is doing. I said this on a few weeks ago when I talked. There was a talk that I did, and I said success. And I got this quote from Miles Monroe: "Success is not what you have done compared to what others have done. It's what you have done or what you can do compared to what you could have done. What you've done compared to what you could have done. You measure yourself about what you can do, not by what others can do that are in your same field." So it doesn't matter what Jermaine or somebody else that you hear. It doesn't matter what all these guys are doing or what they say you should be doing. It's about what you can do and about how you're applying the stuff that you know. Going back to the beginning of this conversation, no one can tell you what you want to say in a conversation. That's your voice. That's how you speak. So the same thing when it comes to this instrument, when you're talking and when you're trying to get into improvisation, it's about what you want to say in a conversation. And you figure out ways to articulate it. And if you have something you want to say in a conversation, what do? We learn more vocabulary words, or we go pull out a dictionary, or we ask Siri, hey, what does this mean? So you have to do the same thing as it relates to your playing. When it's something you want to express, you got to get on the internet or look up something and figure out, okay, how do I express a major scale in a better way? What's something that I can use to better express a major scale? What's some ways I can take out some notes at a major scale? Okay, let's try a major pentatonic. Okay, that's a way of expressing a major scale, but I'm not using all of the notes. So taking arpeggios, okay, or taking intervals. You know, it's so many different things that we can do, but we get ahead of ourselves and we try to fill our toolbox up with a whole bunch of tools instead of learning how to articulate what we want to say with the little bit of information that we have. Add a little bit at a time. Nobody sits down and read a whole dictionary and get all the information and then start trying to form sentences. No, when we teach a baby to speak, they said dada, mama, you know. So if I only knew 3 notes and I had the same groove that we were playing, how could I take those 3 notes that I knew? So if I take 3 notes, I'm gonna prove what I'm talking about. If I take 3 notes and learn how to use those 3 notes, I can have a really nice conversation. You see what I'm saying? So after a while, if I start using it, after a while, I'm going to hear another note. Naturally, I'm going to hear something else. So the more I play around with those 3 notes and try to figure out how to maximize those 3 notes instead of trying to play an entire scale or an entire mode, if I figure out how to maximize those 3 notes, naturally, I'm going to hear something else after a while. And before you know it, I'm going to slide into something else. So we'll add maybe 1 to 2 more notes to this. We'll max out at 5 notes, and I'll try to keep it within 5 notes. So that's my 4th note. I'm gonna add the 5th note. what you want to say, you don't have to rip and run all up and down the neck to get your point across. If that's all they give you, and man, I don't know a whole bunch of notes, and I'm not a virtuoso on the bass. Maximize the small stuff. That's 5 notes. And that's just the way I'm choosing to use those 5 notes. So if you could take 5 notes and do that much, I played about 16 bars with just 5 notes, taking a little bit and adding a little bit at a time. You can start working on your improvisation. We think, okay, when I'm doing improvisation, I have to come up with a. That doesn't mean, that's a way of improving, but that's not the only way, and that's not the only thing that can be said. I can say just as much. Now I added a 6th note. 6 notes. But here I had. The thing about when I'm playing all of that is a chance you might be impressed by it, but you're not going to remember that. You will remember this. Having a phrase like that gives people something to remember when you're playing a solo. So a lot of times I don't often take the chops approach, even though I do have chops and I can go there, because I want to take the listener. If I'm doing my solo thing, oftentimes, and this is the thing that I hear Marcus Miller do religiously, but he'll take the listener on a journey when he's playing a solo. And he'll take just a few notes, something that a person can remember, something that they can sing. So now you can go with me as I build a solo, as opposed to me starting out just playing a whole bunch of fast, impressive stuff. And granted, if you're in the jazz world, I get it. It makes sense. But if you're in a world of people who don't understand that language, sometimes taking the more simple approach is more relatable to people. So if I could say... So by this time, your audience is joining in with you, like just listening sonically. They have joined in with you. So you got them invested into your solo now, as opposed to starting out. You're going to have a bunch of musicians invested into that. But just be honest, the people that you're playing with on average are not a lot of musicians. They are people who don't understand all of that type of stuff. So at some point, you can take them there for the climax. But starting out, sometimes it's nice. And as a guitar player, most of you guys know that I'm a guitar player first. Well, I used to be. But one of the people I used to listen to was Jonathan Dubose. They would give Jonathan Dubose a lot of guitar solos in gospel music. And one of the things I noticed about his solos, when he would build his guitar solos, he would start out with long notes. A lot of the solos that he would take back in the day, he would start out with long notes. You know what I'm saying? He would end with the fast stuff, but a lot of times giving people somewhere to go. So it's like you're starting this race out, and you don't start out running wide open. It's like you start at a medium, at a medium pace, and kind of, get yourself something, give yourself room, give yourself somewhere to go. Like when you turn your computer up or when you turn your phone up, you have to click the button to make the volume go all the way up. You don't just mash one button and it's completely all the way at the top. It's like, so think about your solos in that same way. When you're improvising, when you're doing improvisation and that kind of thing, think about your solos. At least that's the way I kind of go at mine. I'm not trying to tell you how to play, but instead of coming out the gate swinging on 10, give yourself some room, give yourself somewhere to go. And a lot of times in improvisation as well, that gives you time to think about what it is you're going to say, what it is you're going to play, and all these different types of things. So you're not immediately taking off wide open, and then 2 bars in, you run out of ideas, or you're just playing the same stuff over and over again. Now, it's okay when you're playing at slow speeds because you're really developing an idea. And when I do that, I give myself time to think about what it is I want to say, so I can take my time and really, really develop that idea. It's nothing wrong with repeating phrases if it's a reason for it. But if you're repeating phrases because you ran out of ideas and you're just kind of buying time, that's when you should kind of rethink the whole thing of improvisation, because it's like saying the same thing over and over again. After a while of saying the same thing, once you made your point, people are going to be like, okay, all right, you can move on. So it's one of the things you want to think about when it comes to improvisation. I missed some comments here. Let's see if I can go back and see a few of these comments before I jump off of here. And I appreciate everybody for rocking with me this morning. All right, so I'm sure Simone or even Robert Glasper, but all the people, let's see, I'm trying to read it without it going away, but all the people who came out of these schools couldn't jam because they just read. Sorry if I offended anyone. Not offended at all. It really has a lot to do with the culture in the background. I get what you're trying to say, DJ, but I don't know, man. It really has a lot to do with, because I've played with both. I've played with people who come from a classically trained background, or people who are very classically trained, but if they got around the right environment where they were able to work that other muscle, because it's about working a muscle. And if they got in an environment where they got that much more to add, so they're on top of being classically trained and having all these chops, now they learn how to put it into context with people who play by ear, or people who just know how to rock out. And so now they have both of these. So some of the players that I'm really good friends with are some of the most phenomenal players on the planet who know how to do both, and they balance them very well. They come out of the classical background, but they got placed in an environment where they were able, whether it was church or going to like little jam sessions and that kind of thing. Because if you hang around, if you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a cut. Likewise, as a musician, if you hang around an environment long enough, you're going to kind of figure out how to do the same stuff that everybody else is doing. So you just gotta. It's subjective. So I'm not gonna agree all the way one way or the other, because just my experience with people, I understand that it can go both ways, and so I've seen it on both ends. Let's see here. Christopher D, what's up, man? Nice to see you, man, from France. I said Christoph. All right, let's see here. Good morning. How are you doing, sir? Alan, I'm good, man. Good to see you, or good to hear you this morning. So if y'all wondering why my thumb looks black, so we got walnut tree in my yard, and I was trying to do all that stuff. And anybody know about black walnuts, you already know what happened. I got some stuff on my hand. I wasn't painting anything. It's just walnuts, so random. But anyway, guys, thank y'all for joining in with me this morning. This is my time. I hope you gotten a lot out of the day. And if you did find something helpful, Stephen, what's up, man? If you did find something helpful for today, please be sure and share this video with somebody and get the word out, And again, I really, really appreciate y'all for tuning in with me this morning. It's been a pleasure to share this stuff with you. And if you're thinking about quitting, don't. Hang in there and just keep toughing it out. And remember, take it a little bit at a time and maximize what you know. If it's just a little bit, maximize the little bit that you have. Try to make the most of that. Thanks again. Learn some new stuff. Thomas, awesome, man. I'm glad that you got something out of this. And like I said, it's my pleasure always to come on here and share. I do apologize for last week. I couldn't come on live last week. I know y'all didn't want to see me with a box of tissue the entire time I was talking. So I just decided to not do. And I actually got up early with the intentions decided to not do. And I actually got up early with the intentions to do it, but it's like I had so much going on. I said, I'm not gonna be on here and just wiping my nose the entire time. It would have been bad. So I'm here today nonetheless. So I hope again this has been helpful to y'all. And if you hadn't checked out my last video talking about making chords using solfege, be sure to check that out. And I will see you guys on, well, later this week when I put out my next video. So I appreciate you guys for hanging in there with me, and I'm out of here. Have a good day, y'all. Peace.